Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes.
We're back. Oh no, we're already back. Never mind. Cut it out.
we were back last week, but we're back again. Still a true statement.
Yeah. Guess who's back? Back again. Come on, Eminem.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it with you,
Oh,
but I knew where you were headed.
missing out.
What you got for me this week?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I played my first minutes of rugby yesterday. So that was a blast.
Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna play.
I didn't either. I mean, they said if we were losing really bad or winning really much. Oh God, I gotta really think through that one. Then they'd sub me in. But
That's a confidence booster.
I mean, I am still clueless on a lot of stuff. Like you say scrummy, I'm like, I don't know where that position is. Just tell me where to go. I'm usually on the wing, luckily, so that's the last person to the right or left, so that's usually easy. But yeah, it was really fun. It was a tournament of rugby sevens in Mobile, Alabama, right where the USS Alabama battleship is in the background. So that was really fun. I mean, it's a hot southern day, but I probably played about 10 minutes total. The games are only 14 minutes long, and I think we played 5 games. We came in second place.
Wow. So I assume you were winning really handsomely then.
We got beat by one team once in the regular pool game and once in the championship, and we found out after that they're military women, so they get paid to work out. They creamed us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you get to play in that game?
Did I play in that game? I think I played a few minutes in the pool game with them, and it was like, holy they're really quick.
Wow. So did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I got a few scrapes, but I'm alive and it was fun. I tackled twice or 3 times and got tackled once. So, yeah,
Cool.
it was very fun.
Cool. Well, we've got some personnel changes over here at TTC. Slappy has been fired as our intern.
What?
Yeah. My son has started to part ways with Slappy. He's now scared of him, which, hello,
What?
welcome to my world.
This is a 180.
I know, it makes zero sense. If you don't know who Slappy is, he's a ventriloquist dummy that our friends at the Reverend and the Reprobate sent to my son because he'd been begging me for one for months, and he's been best friends with this thing, and it's freaked me out. Now he's scared of it, and he asked Brad to move it out of his bedroom at night. And so I heard Brad do it, but I didn't know where Brad put Slappy.
Oh, no.
So the next morning, I walk into the bathroom and Slappy was just face down on the bathroom floor, and I screamed so loud. I wish you had seen it. You would have laughed your head off.
Peed myself.
I panicked. I opened the door and just went, oh! like such a baby, and like was shaking, and I didn't know what it was, and then I realized it was Slappy, which didn't help. And I thought,
I
oh
wish
Lord,
I would have died laughing. I wouldn't have been able to talk.
Yeah, it was. Nobody was there. Thank goodness. It was embarrassing.
Like he had a bender and passed out in the bathroom.
Yeah, his pants were pulled down.
Nobody was there to hold his hair back.
So I don't know. I assume he'll come around again, but for the moment, I don't know what happened.
Did you ask him why? He's scared.
He's afraid Slappy's going to come alive.
Well, that's the whole gig.
I said, yeah. Well, hello, where have you been?
You ever seen the Goosebumps?
That's where he first saw Slappy.
Right.
So I don't know if he saw a different version of it because there are more than one. So maybe he saw a less kid-friendly one.
Maybe he saw a trailer for Chucky.
Nah, I don't think so. But I don't know what he does with my dad. So.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I'm willing to bet my dad was like, yeah, let's watch this horror movie.
Let's watch Chucky and the Bride. I never
I
watched
don't
those.
know. I'm just kidding. I'm sure he didn't, but I don't know what happened. But he's not interested right now. He's
You
into
must be
Super Mario.
celebrating. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I like Mario better, but I have to do the Mario voice.
Oh my God, do it right now. I can do the Yoshi voice.
I got nothing. All I do is go around the house
It's
saying, "It's a
me,
me,
Mario.
Mario." Yeah, over and over, and I have to try to like
Woohoo!
stretch that into an entire conversation.
Wow.
And you know what's weird? He prefers Luigi. Have you ever heard of that?
No. Did you guys see the movie? Is that why?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. And
Is
we
it
bought it, so
he
we
hasn't
have it.
played any games, right?
No, he hasn't. He prefers Luigi, and
Wow.
because Luigi's taller,
Okay.
I don't know. He thinks he's more like Luigi. So it's
Wow.
yeah, so that's the new thing, Mario and Luigi. And Slappy is in the closet for now.
You should be celebrating. Absolutely. I would throw a Mario party for that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
burn Slappy's corpse. Whoa. Dark.
Very
Sorry.
dark.
I would be the worst parent and be like, sorry, no, it's out of stock forever.
Stock forever. All right. Well, what you got for a tea today?
I got a Megan tea today.
What does
It's
that
something
mean?
you would love. It's Baroness Grey tea.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Baroness.
So I think it's an elevated version of Lady Grey tea.
Yeah. Lady with some chops.
So I got it actually at a local cafe here when I did that silent book club.
So it's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Just so you guys know, that's where a book club meets at a location and ignores each other while they all silently read.
Yeah, we read our own books. But our other book club ended up showing up and we were not silent. And I think we pissed some people off. It's all good.
Yeah, if you're
Anyways.
into silent reading and people are talking, you're ruining the whole point.
I know, we're the worst. So I'm looking through the ingredients. I'm like, how is this different from a Lady Grey tea? So I think, let's take a step back. Earl
She's
Grey
more
tea.
mature.
Yeah. Earl Grey tea is black tea with bergamot oil, right? That's what that unique flavor, that's what makes it different. And then Lady Grey, they add citrus like an orange peel. And then so for Baroness, I see rose petals and lime leaves.
Ooh, I think I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Right? So let me give it an old sniff test. Hey, like my mug.
Again, you have to read it out loud because it's not video.
It says best effing, but it says the real word. Dog mom ever.
I love how you suddenly won't say that.
Oh, I don't swear.
Did I get you that mug?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, it smells like wow, I'm out of breath.
Rugby really did you in.
It smells really nice. I think I get a little hint of the rose in there, and I think it's going to actually mellow it out in a beautiful way. Okay.
Wow.
Ooh, you're gonna love this. I gotta send you.
How am I gonna get it?
I'm gonna send it to you.
Oh, well, that was easy.
Don't make me spit up. I'm doing a serious tea review. All right, so I steeped it for about 4 minutes, and the black tea is not super strong. It's not a huge body. It's a nice Baroness body.
Nice mid-size stature.
It's very mellow compared to like this. Wow, I was about to say really something that shouldn't be put together.
Wish you had.
I know that the Earl Grey comes on very strong. It's very forward. This one is mellow. It allows you to just like sit back and taste the notes. Yeah, you could taste the lime leaves just barely in kind of like a pocket of citrus with the orange, and then that rose just mellows it all out. So I let's give that a royal thumbs up.
Nice. Did you put milk in it?
Just a dash. Because the gray teas can't handle a lot of milk.
I beg to differ.
In how I do black teas.
Yeah. My teas can hold their own in the milk
Which
department.
Marco Polo was it yesterday where you're like, where's the half and half?
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I needed my cream. And you know what's funny is I give my dad crap because we were on vacation, and he ran out of half and half. He was the only one drinking it all by himself. And I said, "Oh, well, there's a carton of milk in there." And he threw a little baby fit. "Oh, it's not the same. I need my half and half." I was like,
I would be
get
that
you.
way about half and half.
I get you, but maybe, we can
Tone it
adapt a
down.
little bit. Nope,
Right.
walk to the store. See ya. All right, you ready for today's case?
I mean, only you can know at this point.
Cool. So in February of 1887,
Yeah,
you gotta love
baby.
that date. Yeah, okay. Carpenter Silas Hibbs
Oh
rose with
my
the
God.
sun.
I want that name, that title
Oh,
and name.
it's not
Say
a
it
title,
again.
it's just his name. Silas Hibbs.
Wow. But Carpenter in the front of it.
Well,
Wow.
that's just his job.
I know, but it's great.
Okay.
Rooting for you, buddy.
Oh, I'm not even a full sentence in. He heads out to work. Now, he's super familiar with the terrain of Eddington, Pennsylvania, where he lives,
Oh
and
my
he's
God.
moved through this farm country
Quakers.
hundreds of mornings before. But on this particular morning, he notices a discarded calico skirt as he's crossing the bridge of Totems Creek.
Oh no.
Curious, he inspects it and he finds that it's stained with what he thinks could be blood.
Someone had
So
a real bad period.
he looks over
Oh no.
the wall of the bridge and he spots a package wrapped in brown paper on the riverbank.
A ham.
So just like the skirt, there appear to be stains.
It's
Now,
a head.
Silas moves even closer and he's noticing that the package is wrapped in twine with red markings that read, "Handle with care."
A head.
What Silas uncovers in that brown package sends him sprinting back up the hill and calling for help. On February 18th of 1887, the Boston Globe will report on this story from Philadelphia, saying, and I quote, "The headless, legless, armless body of a man was found this morning on the Bristol Turnpike, 15 miles from the city by Silas Hibbs, a carpenter living in Eddington."
I have two things to say.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
The conciseness of that. How about we go with decapitated, limbless man? Got him. Two.
I think you could just say torso.
Yeah, I guess so. God. Ew. And two, do you want to hear a song that I made up about Philadelphia in my college days and Mary Kate hates it?
I mean, I think my answer has to be yes. You couldn't have picked a more inappropriate time than right after the discovery of a torso, but go ahead.
Actually, I don't even know if I made it up this time. Ready? Philadelphia, Philadelphia, Philadelphia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's it. Maybe she made it up. Man, those days are a blur. Anyways.
If you didn't make that up, then that professional lyricist, I'm willing to bet, has retired. Okay, so back to the decaying torso, right?
Yep.
So the first one to the scene is the coroner / saloon owner, William Silbert.
These names are great.
Do you think that he played up the angle of being a coroner and a saloon owner? Or do you think it was just common?
I mean, maybe back in the day, you got to wear a lot of hats.
I guess. But I wonder if his saloon was called something like the morgue or something. Ugh. Like if he played up that angle. Or
the dead man's drink.
Yeah, okay. So William Silbert heads down to the riverbank along with doctors E.J. Groom and William Winder.
Okay.
The names don't stop.
The names win.
I know. Now, their first initial concern is that maybe the body is from a medical school, but Silbert notices that the incisions are far too rudimentary to be anybody who knows what they're doing. And so they inspect the body and then they also obviously recover it, bring it back to have an autopsy. And from those two examinations, they conclude that the torso belonged to a man who had died within the last 24 hours, between the ages of 20 to 30 years of age. Now, although the torso is slight in size, the muscles are well developed and healthy. The only prominent feature they can find are that the shoulders are unusually high. And the paper will be identified as the kind used to wrap window glass, which the original dimensions are 5 by 4 feet. And the cuts made to the torso are at the 4th cervical vertebrae, the right arm at the shoulder joint, the left arm under the joint enough that part of the humerus is still intact,
Mm.
and then right above the pelvis. Now, the instruments believed to have been used are obviously a very sharp knife and a
Yeah.
fine tooth saw to cut through the bone. Yeah. None of the doctors are able to conclude the race of the torso definitively.
What?
Black, Chinese, and Italian are all posed as possibilities.
Okay.
So the police proceed to drag the pond for more clues, but Mother Nature does not cooperate, and the rain starts to fall pretty heavy over the next few days.
No.
So Constable Jackson attempts to drag the pond for hours with a rake and a scoop.
Wow.
Yeah,
Imagine
right?
that job.
I know, but without being able to actually lower the water level, the task becomes nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And all they end up finding are a few additional pieces of fabric and a shawl strap. Now, the race of the torso becomes a topic of intense interest.
Oh, no. Can't be for
Ye-
good.
Yeah, the coroner brings in Italian men and black men and women to ask their opinion.
What?
He even compares the arm of two black women to the skin of the torso, which they don't love, by the way.
No. No.
And then
That's
he
disgusting.
asks the woman if she believes the torso belongs to a black man. And one of the women says, nowadays, hard to tell the difference.
Hmm.
So, in one of the books I read by Nicole Gross, who's a historian and a professor, has a PhD, she does an unbelievable job of diving into the racial prejudice at the time that this murder was
Yeah.
happening
God.
and how the line between white and black was becoming blurred
Mm-hmm.
because there were children who had black and white parents. There are also immigrants coming from all different parts of the world,
Yeah.
and it's making certain people nervous,
Huh. Yeah.
aka, white people
Right. God
particularly.
forbid.
So, shortly after the discovery of the torso, theories are running wild all over town. Can you imagine the
Right.
kind
In
of
a small
rumors that
town.
would, yeah, I mean, anybody who's made anybody mad, like, oh, your tree fell in my yard, you probably are the reason for that torso. Like, they're just flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Silas Hibbs starts to add details to his account, and he remembers that two men went by his house that morning, and they happened to be two black men, and they looked over the bridge, and he wonders that if they were the cause of it, which they weren't, and they were probably curious, just doing exactly what he did.
Yep.
So, in many ways, you see racism
Oh,
rearing its
I
head.
am sure. I mean, this is not a good time.
Yeah. There also was a theory that a man named Robert Sadler had been missing for a few days during the time that the torso was discovered. So they start thinking it's him, but he just shows
Oh.
up a couple days later and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And everybody's like, "Oh, thank God you're alive." Another witness named Frank Allen, he had been walking home Wednesday night, which is the day they believe the murder occurred. And three men had jumped out, like out of the woods and tried to rob him, but he's usually
Bandits.
alone. But at that, who?
Bandits.
Oh, bandits. Yeah. At that night, for some reason, he had two friends with him. So it
Oh.
was an even fight. And so the three bandits, as you say, just ran away into the woods. But the men walking heard a gunshot later. So theories started forming around maybe these three men were the ones who had killed somebody that night.
Huh.
All right. We also have a train conductor, Frank Swain, who came forward on Saturday. So they think whatever happened Wednesday. They came forward on Saturday, and he reported a woman who boarded at Broad Street Station on Wednesday night, got off in Eddington, which is where the
What was she
torso was found.
wearing?
Swain remembers this woman because she had two packages with her, and when she sat down, she immediately opened the window. Now, it's February, and it's dark out. So he
Whoa.
asked her why the window was open, and she said she'd just been released from the hospital for being sick and she needed the fresh air.
No.
So once he heard that, he offered to carry the packages for her, and she
Eh.
refused.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And the skirt. Where's the skirt?
So hold on. So this made this woman stick out in Swain's mind because those are
it's a
two
weird thing to
unusual
do.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He described this woman as a tall black woman with a southern accent wearing a hat and a shawl. He described one package as wrapped in a shawl strap, which they found in the pond, and the other in calico fabric.
Whoa.
So this is compelling, right? And the investigators trace this woman down after she left Swain's sight. And he had been told by this mystery woman that she was heading towards the Brock estate. So they go to Eddington and they talk to some people. Once she got to Eddington, this mystery woman got turned around and she stopped at the Stroop home to ask for directions. She again stated that she was on her way to the Brock estate to visit a servant there by the name of George Redding. Now, Mrs. Stroop sends one of her servants to escort the woman, and the woman says, "Oh, thank you so much, but I've left my packages at the front gate. Let me just run and get them." So this mystery woman runs to get her packages and then takes off. So the servant is trying to catch up and follow her and help guide her, but he notices that she's going the opposite way that Mrs. Stroop said. She's headed towards the pond, and he loses sight of her pretty quick and he can't find her.
Weird.
Yeah. So this last tip, obviously we're onto something because this has
Yeah.
multiple people who've seen this
yeah.
woman. She has the packages in her possession. This is very suspicious,
I mean, it's got to be a big package.
right? So the police start with going to the Brock estate, which is where the woman said she was heading. Now, no current servants fit the woman's description, but a woman who went by the name of Mary Shepherd had worked there the year before with her niece, Annie Richardson. Now, Annie Richardson had gone missing. And this woman, Mary, had left when the girl never came back in the fall of 1886. So, this woman we're going to talk about, Mary Shepherd, that's not her real name. She uses a lot of aliases. She's changed her name throughout history. It also is a time where history is not keeping track, especially at women of color, right? So, even today, there's little known about her. But this woman was born in Maryland as Hannah Ann Smith in the 1850s. She would become known as Hannah Mary.
Okay.
So she was born in an area that had slaves as well as a large population of free Black people. But it's unknown if Hannah Mary was a slave or not. Either way, you have a Black woman growing up during the Civil War.
Yeah.
And
God,
she's
I can't
definitely
imagine.
experiencing violence
Of course.
from all aspects. A lot of white violence, I'm sure, a lot of racism, and probably who knows what her actual home situation was.
Right.
She doesn't show up really on the record until about the age of 19 or 20 when she starts traveling with a baby by the name of Annie. Now, the story was that Annie was her niece and that Annie's parents had died. But it's pretty widely believed that Annie was actually Hannah Mary's daughter, and that lie was meant to protect both of them.
Right. Her reputation.
Her reputation and Annie's reputation.
Yeah.
So by 1974, Hannah Mary gets married to a man named John Tabbs. Now, Hannah Mary's 21.
Man, I'm assuming.
Yes, John is a Black man who is a Civil War veteran, and he has a steady job at a hotel.
Thank you for your service.
He's older than Hannah Mary, not like a disgusting amount, but he's in his 30s.
Okay.
And the marriage is able to give her some financial support for her and Annie, as well as some respectability. Because if it is a lie, she's traveling with this child and, people ask questions. So she's married to John, but Hannah Mary Tabbs has a reputation around town of being violent with an explosive temper.
She does?
She does. Yes. Not to her white employers because she's often employed as a cook or a domestic servant for white families.
Okay.
She's an excellent cook, by the way. But this temper comes out towards her Black neighbors, Black friends, other servants who are in the home with her. And the consensus is you steer clear of Hannah Mary Tabbs.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. In fact, many people believe Tabbs was responsible for the disappearance of Annie Richardson. So, when Tabbs catches wind of her name being reported around town as the mystery woman, she does not run and hide. Instead, she returns to Eddington, and she says she wants to talk to the constable about her niece. But the constable is out doing his job. So she talks to a man named Squire Vandergrift. Now, I don't know if Squire is his name or his title, but I just didn't have, I was like, I'm not going to fall down that rabbit hole because that sounds amazing.
Wow.
Now, Tabbs says, she relays this to Vandergrift. She says that a man by the name of George Wilson had come to her house claiming to know where Annie was. Tabbs had given Wilson $2 to bring Annie home. A few days go by. Wilson shows up again, this time with another man called Wakefield Gaines. The names just keep coming. They're all
They're
amazing.
amazing.
Wilson waits until Gaines is out of earshot and pulls Tabbs aside and says, listen, Annie will come back, but she needs clothes to travel.
What?
So Tabbs gives Wilson some clothes as well as an additional 50 cents. When Gaines returns, back into the conversation, Tabbs reports that he looks angry, but she doesn't give any context as to why. Another couple of days pass, and a note is slipped under Tabbs' door. It's addressed to Wakey Gaines, and the last line reads, I want these few lines to let you know that you need not write any more to me, for I am not at the same place, and you need not try to find me.
Oh no, she ran away.
This note is supposedly from Annie.
But she sent it to her parents.
She sent it to this gentleman, Wakefield Gaines.
But it's you said it was slipped under.
But then somebody slipped it
Tabbs'
under her
door.
door. Mm-hmm.
Right, where Mary and what's his name live?
John
right? Okay.
live. Who, as far as she knows, neither one of them are her parents.
Right. But they're acting as them.
Yeah. So Vandergrift is listening to this, and he says, "Hey, maybe you should stick around. This story is crazy. Stick around and tell the
Yeah.
constable." And she says she has to go, so she leaves to get back on the train.
How old is Annie at this point again?
The girl missing?
Yeah.
She's a young teenager.
Okay.
So the chief of police, Chief Kelly, has been trying to follow up on this torso murder. He has followed Conductor Swain's tip, and he's been looking at hospitals because remember the woman said she'd just been released from the hospital.
Yep.
So he looks at the hospital she said she had been at, and there's no record of her. He looks at others, and he finds record of a Hannah Mary Tabbs at a different hospital along with her address. So he believes that that could be the match. Now, after hearing this story from Vandergrift, they start looking into the connection between Tabbs, Wilson, and Gaines and the missing girl, Annie Richardson. And it's discovered that Annie, Tabbs, and Gaines had all worked together at the Brock estate.
Huh.
Wakefield Gaines, he's probably 23, 24 at this time. He was born in 1864, and he's one of 9 children. His father was a farmer and a preacher. His sister, he's a big family. His sister, Jeannie Cannon, walks into the police station that same day and says, hey, Hannah Mary Tabbs came to my house with an article about this torso wailing and crying that she thinks it might be my brother, Wakefield Gaines. Then she started talking about how she thinks Gaines is involved in Annie's disappearance. Now, Cannon is worried about this because she has not seen her brother since Tuesday. And also because Cannon knows that Gaines and Tabbs are lovers and their relationship is incredibly volatile.
Wait. Hold time out.
Mm-hmm.
What? So, okay. So his sister is accusing Hannah, Mary, and Wakefield of being in a relationship, not Wakefield and Annie?
Correct. Hannah Mary Tabbs and Wakefield Gaines are in a relationship. She knows that to be true.
But Annie and Wakefield have been talking, her niece.
Well, that's what the note said, but it's believed that the note was probably fake.
But where's Annie?
We don't know.
What?
Yes, it's very confusing. Okay. So Cannon continues to give an example of this relationship. She said that 2 weeks before her brother went missing, he had run into her house to get away from Tabbs, who was chasing him down the street after she saw him with another woman.
Oh, no.
And she had slashed his cheek open.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So at the time of his disappearance, Gaines is a waiter and he's boarding at 207 Shell Street. His landlady reported not seeing Gaines since Tuesday either, same as the sister. But she had received a note reading, I am nursing a sick friend. We'll send you some money soon. Wait, Gaines. And the landlady identified Tabbs as somebody calling herself Mrs. Shepherd. She introduced herself as Mrs. Shepherd, which is the alias she used at the Brock estate, right? She said she was Mrs. Shepherd and that she was Gaines' aunt. And she paid his bills and visited him every Saturday night.
What?
Just to give you age difference, Hannah Mary's in her early 30s. So there's about a
Okay.
decade between the two.
Wow.
Now, Cannon looked at the note and confirmed that it was one, not her brother's handwriting, and two, that he never signed his name like that. She also happens to mention that her brother has unusually high shoulders,
He's dead.
which was the one distinctive
Yep.
characteristic of that torso.
He's a stressed out guy.
With all of these pieces, the police making, the same connection you are, obviously they believe that the torso belongs to Wakefield Gaines and they need to talk to Hannah Mary as soon as possible.
Yep.
So Tabbs is arrested as she returns home at the Broad Street station. She took the 325 train. They arrest her. She says she has no idea what happened to Gaines. Clueless. Now, they know about the story about Annie and all these, Gaines and this man, George Wilson. They've heard the story. They want to find George Wilson, but they can't find him. So they know he exists, though. He's a real person. They are able to find out through his background that he was born to a white man and a black woman, and he'd spent a lot of time at a school of refuge. His mother had died really young. So he was in and out of the school of refuge as well as with family members. He learned to read, write, do math, and he learned a trade at the school of refuge. But what they're most interested about is that he has experience working at a slaughterhouse.
Oh boy.
So they're really interested to find him. Now, they have Tabbs. Several people are brought in to be questioned about her whereabouts the day of the murder. Her husband, John, is brought in. He worked that day at the hotel. He got home around 8 p.m. Hannah Mary was not at home.
Oh boy.
He fell asleep, woke up around 9. Hannah Mary was not at home.
Whoa.
And he said it's not unusual for her to be gone at night.
So their relationship has got to be a little rocky.
She returned home around 11.
Wonder what she was up to.
Now, remember the train conductor, Frank Swain, he saw Hannah Mary Tabbs and said, yep, that's definitely the woman I saw with the packages, 100%. And the train schedule, her tickets, all the other witnesses together, all the timeline works out for her being the one who would have dropped the torso.
Ooh.
They searched the Tabb home.
How heavy is a torso?
I know.
Trying to think of the bones. Anyways.
They searched the Tabb home and they're actually hoping to find the rest of the body there.
Yeah.
But they do not. They find evidence of blood as well as ash in the cellar that matches ash on the torso.
She burned the rest of the body.
So eventually, Hannah Mary Tabbs...
Why wouldn't she burn the whole thing? Okay, sorry.
You're just making assumptions. Eventually, Tabbs decides to give her version of events. Now, there's some question if this was willingly or if it was a forced confession, because Tabbs had a black eye and people aren't sure if she got it due to the murder or if she got it at the station. There's some question that goes back and forth about it.
That's illegal.
Either way, Tabbs says that on Wednesday morning, February 16th, Gaines came to her house between 9 and 10 a.m. George Wilson came shortly after. Tabbs was eating breakfast. Now, Wilson, who said he knew where Annie was, you'll remember, told Tabbs he'd bring Annie home on Sunday. Gaines asked if Wilson was with Annie now. Like, are they going together? And Tabbs said, I don't know and I don't care as long as Annie comes home.
Yeah.
This didn't sit right with Gaines, apparently, and he got up and hit Wilson. So the two men are now fighting. Wilson grabs a chair and hits Gaines over the head with it, which causes him to slump to the floor. He continues to hit Gaines over the head with it, and Gaines never woke up. Now, Tabbs says Wilson then undressed Gaines and brought his body down to the cellar. He left the house, came back 20 minutes later with a butcher cleaver. The next time he came upstairs, he said, I've got it all fixed now. And Tabbs said Wilson had wrapped the head in paper and placed the arms and legs under the stairs and that the torso was leaning up against the steps. Wilson told her he was going to take care of the head and bring back something to wrap the rest of the body in, and he wanted her to take the torso to media. She said she doesn't know that area, but she could take it to Bucks County. She waited all day in the house until 5 o'clock when Wilson returned. He handed her the wrapped package. She grabbed an old calico skirt of Annie's and wrapped it another time. And she was also handed a bundle of Gaines' clothes. She waited until it got dark, took the train. You know, we know that story. She got there, got lost. I don't know why she'd asked for directions, but when the servant hurried after her, she hid in a yard until he went away and then made her way to the bridge. She had expected the torso to sink, but it hit the riverbank instead and stayed there.
Oops.
She had the
Also,
bundle.
bodies don't sink.
She had the bundle of clothes, but she decided to keep it because she was afraid it could be tied back to Gaines, like it might have his name on it or something.
Oh.
She goes back home, meets Wilson at the Broad Street station, and hands the clothes to Wilson. Wilson checks in on her on Thursday to see if she's heard anything, and then Silas finds the torso, so the story breaks on Friday. He again comes by the house and says if she tells anybody, he'll kill her.
Oh, boy.
So this is the statement that Hannah Mary Tabbs made.
Right.
George Wilson has still not been found to give his version of events.
Oh, right.
But later that day, he is found, and the 18-year-old George Wilson is arrested. He's only 18.
Oh, my gosh.
He claims he's not seen Gaines for over 2 weeks, and he had been at work the entire day of the murder.
But someone could corroborate that.
Well, eventually, Wilson says that he and Gaines got into a fight. Now, there's a lot of question around Wilson's partial confession, whether it was given under duress. So he said that he hit Gaines and ran. And when he returned, Tabbs handed him parts of the body to dispose of. He was given the head, arms, and legs. He said he hid them under a bridge until nightfall, tied them all together, and threw them in the river. Yeah. So the police take him to drag the river, and they don't find anything.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Now, because this is a case of both of them saying they were there, but that the other one did it, there's, it's always tough to prove or disprove those. But it is revealed that the actual cause of death was not thought to be a skull fracture, but instead thought to be the throat being cut. So whoever dismembered the body is technically the murderer.
Oh, because he was still alive, but they thought he was dead?
I think so.
Check a pulse.
Yeah. So more details about the relationship between Tabbs and Gaines come to light. Now, the landlady's already said she thought Tabbs was his aunt, thought her name was Shepherd. She was the one who paid his bills, cooked him food, and did his laundry. 2 days before the murder, the landlady claimed that Gaines was very ill, and he said that he believed Tabbs had put arsenic in his beer.
Wow.
And he'd stopped drinking it. So, side note, you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but Tabbs is married.
Yeah.
Now, John appears to have suffered a groin injury from the Civil War. So there may be a little bit of an understanding between the two of them. That I don't know the specifics
Get your
of
fun and kicks outside the house.
So whatever the arrangement, it's clear that Tabbs does not want Gaines to see any other women. She actually followed him to the Brock estate when he got work there. And she'll interfere or interject if she sees him talking with any other women.
Oh, boy.
Right, which we know from the slash cheek example. But before he was murdered, Tabbs finds out that Gaines was not only seeing someone else, but that he had proposed to another woman. Now, this new fiance and Tabbs also don't happen to know that Gaines is already married. He'd been married in Delaware in 1882 to an 18-year-old woman named Maria Jane Connor. They had moved to Philadelphia together. Gaines was not a great husband, I believe, unfaithful, abusive.
Well, yeah, you think.
They decided to separate. So they weren't together, but they weren't divorced.
Got it. It's like Sweet Home Alabama, but not.
You say that every time. So a 17-year-old Hattie Armstrong also came forward during the investigation and testified in the trial, saying that Tabbs gave her a bundle of clothes to pawn on the day of the murder. These items held a vest, coat, and pants that were believed to be Gaines.
Uh-huh.
The clothes were wrapped in the same brown paper as the torso.
Uh-huh.
Now, in her confession, she said she gave those clothes back to Wilson.
Yeah, she did.
But this girl is saying that she did it and she got, paid to do it.
Huh.
So Wilson's family actually gets a lawyer. And he's tried first. And his lawyers double down on the fact that he said he was at work from 10 to 6:30 that day.
Well, let's hear a freaking witness.
His boss and several customers testify that, yes, he was at work all day and there's no way he could have been out of their sight for more than a few minutes.
Where did he work again?
I don't remember where he was working at that time. Wilson's lawyer also introduces that the confession Wilson made was due to police brutality and taken under duress.
Yeah.
which I believe is a very likely
Yeah.
very likely to have happened, but this is not something that was unusual for the lawyer to say this at this time.
Okay.
He also said that when they dragged the river looking for, apparently where the body was, the police had given Wilson whiskey to drink
What?
to like loosen him up, but he wasn't accustomed to drinking.
Oh, no.
In the book, Hannah Mary Tabbs and the Disembodied Torso, A Tale of Race, Sex, and Violence in America by
Oh.
Dr. Gross, she talks about the fact that Wilson was, quote, light enough to pass for white, which is making
Yeah.
people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Whereas Tabbs fits better into the mold of what white society is used to. And Tabbs is playing this stereotype of a fallen woman, which Gross points out is interesting because really up until then, that's something that's reserved for white women. Tabbs is saying she was in this
Yeah.
relationship and manipulated by men. So Tabbs is taking a chance by walking this, prejudice, but fine line between being this sympathetic character.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so in addition to Wilson, he has had several things working against him. There's a witness in Tabbs' neighborhood who said she saw Wilson come out of Tabbs' home carrying a package. And she knew Wilson because she knew him from the neighborhood. It was somebody she knew, not just a random man. And he was carrying the package away from his body, which I think is why she noticed it. It was weird.
I mean, I would do the same.
I know, right? But think about how weird that would look if somebody was carrying it. You carry a package like a football,
Mm-hmm.
Also, another thing working against him is Wilson is not acting right, which we usually hear in the demeanor for women being too cold and calm and collected. But Wilson is coming across as if he almost likes the attention. And I think maybe he's just in awe of it and he's confused and he doesn't know how to take it all in. And he's just sitting there chewing tobacco, kind of like looking around.
Uh-huh.
And people are taking that to mean he's not interested or not worried.
Got it.
Whereas Tabbs is really making sure she's playing up the very fragile,
she's smart,
concerned, sympathetic character. So because of these things, Wilson is found guilty of first-degree murder.
What? But what about everybody at work? Like, he literally has an alibi.
Yeah.
But then, like, what is the neighbor? Like, who's telling the truth?
Exactly. The neighbor really came off as more believable
than 7 witnesses.
So he appeals. He's allowed a retrial and he pleads guilty to second-degree murder this time around, which earns him a sentence of 12 years. And he's kept in solitary confinement.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't understand.
That's cruel.
Yeah. He is released from prison in 1896.
Oh, man. He's a baby, right? He's 18?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hannah Mary is also found guilty, but just of being an accomplice after the fact. And she is sentenced to 2 years.
She has the motive.
Right. This is exactly what Dr. Gross talks about. So Annie Richardson, if you remember, kind of who this seems to somehow be centered around.
Right.
She's discovered alive and well, working as a domestic servant. She said that Tabbs started mistreating her around age 11 and even put her in a house of refuge for over a year. She said that Tabbs beat her so often and would become wildly jealous whenever she spoke to Gaines that she finally just ran away.
Oh, good for you, Annie. I hope you're doing okay. I mean, you're dead now, but hope you died in a good way.
At the time, yeah. So Hannah was actually released in 1889. John waited for her, but he died 4 days before she was released.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
So after prison, Hannah moves in with her brother. She gets work off and on as a domestic servant. And in 1916, she remarries a man named James Anderson.
Good luck to you, buddy.
I know. Good luck, James. So I became interested in the story because I thought my true crime self was like, oh, a torso on the side of the road. That's different, right? And the poison didn't touch that. But in reading the book, Dr. Gross talks about how important it was for her to write this story because Hannah Mary breaks up the stereotypes of Black women. Historical information is lost on so many people who are not white, particularly who are not white men. And stories that do exist are often when a Black woman's story intersects with a white person's.
Right.
And so in an article with BBC, Dr. Gross says, quote, Tabbs was a kind of Black woman that I hadn't encountered before while studying history. She knew how to put up a front when it came to respectability, but she also knew how to manipulate, threaten, and brutalize people to get what she wanted.
Yeah.
whether it was to be feared or to engage in a risque affair.
Hmm.
Which is true, right? That's the kind of woman.
Yeah.
So when she wanted to write this story, she got pushback from the publishers because they didn't think, oh, she's not sympathetic enough. She's not the right kind of character. And so she asked the important question, do Black women have to be purely victims?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, do they have to be
Ex-
purely good or purely victims for anybody to care
Can they
about them?
just
And
be
she,
people?
exactly. And she said, exactly right. She said that it was really important for her to write this book because, quote, I don't want Black women to have to be clean in order to merit scholarly attention or to be legible as human beings.
Fuck yes. When was this published?
Pretty recently, it's a great audiobook. The narrator does a
Okay.
fantastic job. So I think actually you'd be okay with it because it's not any grosser than what I've said here.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, in terms of crime details. Yeah, so pick it up. It's on Audible, Amazon, all that stuff. Now, because this is the most information you have is from this book. There aren't a lot of other articles
Man,
about it. I
her
mean, I
research must have been nuts.
so she thinks that Tabbs and Gaines got into a fight that day, which we know to be true. We know that's their history. That's probably where Tabbs got the black eye from.
Yeah.
Even though she believes Wilson was probably beaten by the police, she thinks that Tabbs was probably hit by Gaines
Okay.
and that she struck him in the back of the head. She thinks that Wilson was either a witness or maybe had tried to intervene to break them up and then freaked out, and probably Tabbs manipulated him to help her because she thinks it's very possible that Wilson was actually trying to scam Tabbs with the Annie stuff to get money out of.
Yeah, I keep forgetting, like, why is he
Yeah.
around again? It's because of Annie.
I think he lived in the neighborhood and I think he was trying to scam her because he was seen with women's clothes at a certain point in his possession, which conceivably lines up with Tab's story. And so I think he was trying to scam her, and I think that's all he was trying to do. And then she used that to manipulate him, or she could have also, I imagine, said she was just going to blame him, and who are they going to believe,
Yeah.
right? At that time, because women don't murder, right? We know that to be true. So she thinks that Tabbs was the one who actually murdered Gaines, and that she said Wilson had no motive. Why would he do that? He has
Right.
no motive.
That's the
Tabbs has
thing.
all the motive and
All
the
the motive.
history.
She's like a jealous crazy.
Yeah, history of being violent. So
Yeah.
she really believes that
Right.
Wilson
Annie
kind of
freaking
just
ran
was in the
away.
wrong place at the wrong time and didn't feel like he had a lot of options and was somehow manipulated into helping her dispose of the body.
I mean, he's a baby.
The rest of the body was never found.
I think it was burned.
I don't know.
Why would there be ash?
I don't know why you wouldn't just burn the torso.
That's what I'm saying too. But still, why? Where's the ash come into play?
Well, the ash was in the cellar, and I think it's just common to have that there. Maybe what the part that was true of Wilson's story was that he did put it in the river if he was helping her, right? Because he was seen with the package. Maybe he did throw it in the river. And I don't know why she threw it in a pond.
Right, like the river will flow.
Of course, it's going to be found. The river took it away, and it was never discovered. But
all of those things will float, especially if they're cut up.
yeah, I guess it was a creek technically. So maybe but I don't know. I mean, it didn't even
Creek.
make it into the water. But so what do you think? Do you agree with Dr. Gross's assessment, or do you think it's something else?
I think that's a fair assessment. I think she did it. She has all the motive, and he's just a weird ancillary piece of this puzzle. It's just odd to me.
Yeah.
But maybe he did assist in some way. But it was definitely, she's smarter and more experienced than him. You know, she's got 12 years on him.
Yeah.
And so she played it up as a woman and used that stereotype and broke into
I also
one.
Some of the questions that came about were, why would you sit around in the house all day if you had just witnessed George Wilson murder your boyfriend?
Yeah.
There were hours where she could have escaped and gone for help.
Right, of course. And also, can you imagine sitting with the corpse?
Right. And so I feel like that's a pretty good that's a pretty good circumstantial argument for me of why are you not? And witnesses in the neighborhood had seen her that day of the murder and said she looked a mess, which backs up the story of she was the one in the fight, which we know is her nature rather than Wilson. 'Cause people would have seen Wilson at work all day too, and he wasn't
Right.
a mess.
That's really interesting. That's a really it's not a cool story, but there's a lot of really interesting aspects of it.
Yeah. And again, reading the book, I mean, I'm just scraping the surface, but reading the book will give you a lot more insight
Yeah.
into it. And it's, I'm constantly looking for these stories, and we love to do historical cases, and I mean, she's
People
right.
don't cover people of color.
Right. There's it's really hard to find women in general, and then usually those women happen to be white. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I'm sure there are so many
Yeah.
stories that got lost to history, but that
The
were
folds of time.
just like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Underrepresentation, folks. It's
And
real.
yeah, like we said, we're not representing. They're not maybe the nicest women here on TTC, but
But
they're
we're still
interesting.
recording their names, and that's important.
Yeah. So, what are your last words?
Kind of going off what Dr. Gross said about you shouldn't have to have a perfect, clean person of color or, gay or whatever to tell their story. People of every skin color or sexual orientation, etc., like should just be able to be people. Like in the last 10 years, you're seeing a lot of books come out, like fiction of Black people just being people instead of it being a story fighting racism, which both stories are really important. Or like a story featuring a gay lead who's not fighting homophobia. They're just
Yeah.
like, it's a romance and, it's trying to chase their happily ever after.
Yeah.
It's so important to have both these stories where it's not just showing the struggle of, racism, homophobia, which is, again, we need those too. But like
Right.
also, hey, I'm a normal person and I'm awkward and I really like this other person. And here's the story,
Yeah.
Like people are people and they have so many facets and all of it needs to be explored and written about.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. All right. Well, we will be back next week. So you can find us on all the platforms at.
Tea Time Crimes.
You can email us at.
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
And who should listen today?
Oh man, history buffs, especially Civil War buffs, butchers. Oh God, maybe not.
Don't
I
listen
don't
too hard.
know, like book readers, Quakers, people who like Philadelphia, and let's just throw in a carpenter.
Yeah. And Philadelphia, the Travel Commission of Philadelphia, if you would like to use that song, please contact us at teatimecrimes@gmail.com because I feel like we could work out a very economical deal for you. I think we could probably let you have the rights to that song for very cheap.
I didn't sing the next verse, which Mary Kate came up with.
Oh, please sing it.
No, Alana, no, Alana, no, Alana, no.
It doesn't connect to the first verse at all.
Yeah, because I would just keep singing that first verse and then she would follow it up. Or I would be doing something really stupid. But that they go together.
Perfect. Feel free. You don't have to use that second verse, Philadelphia. You can just stick with that first one. The real bread and butter of the song there.
The
All
City
right.
of Love.
Is that accurate?
I think it is. Brotherly love.
Okay.
They have that love statue.
Yeah, brotherly love. I just didn't know.
Well, sisterly love is important too.
In my head, I was thinking Virginia is for lovers, and so I'm not sure now. Everybody's
That makes
loving
you uncomfortable.
It makes me very uncomfortable every time I see it. I'm like, that's on your license plate.
Virginia
Who thought
is
that
for
was?
lovers.
Isn't that what it says?
I think you're right. That's
God, what if I made
familiar.
it up and this whole time it's been something else? That would be very on brand for me.
It would.
No, Virginia tourism. Virginia is for lovers. Ugh, gross. Keep it in your pants, Virginia. All right. And your skirts.
We're out of here.
Goodbye.